Hi, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List. Welcome to our program, and welcome to what is another of our continuing series sponsored by the Bridge Alliance, which we call Fixing America's Broken Democracy. So we all have a little bit of work to do, I think, in that regard. And so toward that end, our guest today is Mario Lopez, and he is the president of the Hispanic Leadership Fund. Mario, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's our pleasure. So your name, the Hispanic Leadership Fund, is kind of broad, I would say. And in that regard, your organization could be doing any number of things. Why don't you share with us what the Hispanic Leadership Fund is all about? And along the way, Mario, tell us a little bit about yourself as well and how you got to the position of leadership that you're currently in.
Sure. Thank you, David. Hispanic Leadership Fund has been around a little over 13 years. We're a public policy advocacy organization based in Washington, D.C. So we do focus primarily on the federal level, but from time to time, we do weigh in on important issues in state capitals, being debated by state legislatures and, leaders at the state level. And our core principles are promoting liberty, opportunity, and prosperity for all Americans. So we communicate with members of Congress to get our point of view across, and other policymakers. We've really made a difference, I like to think, at all levels of government, including the judiciary, including the executive branch. And we also communicate to, our primary audience, which is a growing number of Hispanic Americans in the country. But we, as I say, our core principles and the public policy we focus on, we want to increase liberty, prosperity, and opportunity for all.
Mario, give us a few examples of how you might go about that and what some of the projects are that your organization is engaged in.
I mean, you're right. It is very broad, and it is a large undertaking. That's something we don't take lightly. The way I look at it, along that theme, is that all issues are Hispanic issues, right? And so, my view has always been that if they're talking about it on Capitol Hill, then we need to be weighing in, because there's a tie-in at some point. And we found, and even issues that people don't come first and foremost to mind when you think of issues that affect the Hispanic community. I mean, they inevitably do. And so that's something that, we always carry forth. As I mentioned, our advocacy runs from everything from writing opinion pieces, meeting with policymakers, communicating with members of Congress and their staff. We file amicus briefs from time to time in courts, including one recently in the Supreme Court on a successful First Amendment case. And so, we look for opportunities to weigh in, to participate with other coalition groups as the situation calls for, but also to be leaders in the area, to not just stand by and, wait for others to kind of weigh in and follow their lead, although that's okay sometimes too. But we look for as many opportunities as we can to be on the forefront of trying to communicate our core principles in the way that I just described, and others.
You're out there promoting, I think you refer to them as, which we would all agree, common sense public policy solutions that, as you mentioned, not only benefit the Hispanic community, but essentially that's most of Middle America, I would think, right? So, and give us some examples of recent activities, and I know you said the Supreme Court filing, but give us a few other examples of activities that you think some of our viewers might be interested in hearing about and maybe interested in learning more about.
Sure. Well, I'll give you, one popular area of discussion and focus is always things that affect small businesses, right? I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. In the Hispanic community, for example, Hispanics start small businesses at a rate 3 times that of the general population. So it's a huge economic driver, as we all know, for the country, but also for the Latino community, right? And in these areas that desperately need economic growth, right? So there are a lot of economic and regulatory issues that affect small businesses. Recently, we've done a lot on the PRO Act, for example. We do a lot on, which is a federal bill that's going to make it tougher for businesses to keep independent contractors as workers. That's a huge area. Gig economy workers, for example. That's an area that has been growing, as we all know, the last 10, 15 years. And that's something that we want to see continue to be a vibrant economic driver. So, that's been a big issue of concern for the last couple months. And we're watching some of the stuff that's going on with the infrastructure package in Congress currently. There are a lot of tax and economic regulatory issues that affect small businesses. And so that's one big area that, constantly comes up on our radar.
Mario, I think you said something. I just want to repeat it because I found it astonishing that the Hispanic community starts small businesses at again, correct me if I misheard, but at 3 times the rate as the average citizen in our country. Just talk about that a little bit more, if you don't mind, and how that's changing America and making us all better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really an incredible stat, and you're right to underline and emphasize it because it is a big thing. I mean, generally speaking, I think a lot of folks, until they stop and think about it, don't really get just how important small businesses are to the country as a whole, right? I mean, they create, I think, 2/3 of the new jobs come from small businesses, so you look at something like that in the Hispanic community, right, who are starting small businesses at a rate that's even greater. And that's a huge driver because they're creating jobs, they're driving economic growth and opportunity, not just for the small business owners, right, who, of course, we do focus on, and those are people who are pursuing the American dream in the ultimate way possible, I think, and in a way that's always, worked out for waves of newcomers, historically speaking, but also for the folks who they employ, because these are, they're creating jobs in most cases in their communities, right? And so that's a huge economic driver and something that just can't be replaced, in our view, by, it's just not something that can be replicated by government programs and, other sort of areas that can supplement and that might have a role in certain situations, but they just can't replace that economic engine. And so that's something that, we come back to again and again in a lot of the issues that we focus on. We really do take a hard look at how these things affect, those folks, those people who are not just small business owners, but again, the employers, the employees, and the families, their families. And that's something that, we want to make sure to protect, because again, that is a primary sort of, what do you want to call it? A function of people coming to the United States, as they always have, to pursue the American dream and make a better life for themselves and their families.
So I know, Mario, I think you would agree. We've been talking a little bit about, I guess we'll call it financial empowerment, but so many of these issues are interconnected. And I know your organization is equally concerned about education reform, healthcare, modernizing immigration, and others. So just speak very briefly to some of those issues and what you're doing there.
Sure. Education is huge, of course, for everyone, but especially in the Latino community and other underserved communities. It's just, you can't stress enough, right? And it becomes kind of a cliche after a while, but it is just so true at how increasing education opportunities in these communities is just, pretty much the best investment that a country can make, right? Empowering individuals, giving them paths towards pursuing, their dreams, their hopes, fulfilling, their aspirations, and helping, again, these real people build a better life for themselves and their families, whether they're a recent immigrant or fifth generation or somewhere in between. It is such an important issue. So we keep an eye peeled, sharply on that. We want to always look for ways to increase the power and control that individuals have over their education choices and options. So that's, a huge thing. You mentioned immigration as well. That's always, a hot topic in the news. It's a very complex issue it's multifaceted. There are a lot of different aspects to that issue, whether you're talking about asylum and refugee, policy that's been in the news a lot lately, all the way up to, economic investment opportunities for immigrants who want to come and build businesses. And so, that's something that we keep an eye peeled on as well.
Mario, it strikes me, the immigration debate is kind of what sucks all the energy, I guess, out of the room. It would seem to me that the more people learn that so many small businesses are started by and run by members of the Hispanic community, the more you get that word out, the better the debate about immigration will be. You probably don't need my advice, but it just strikes me that's the case. Mario, the Hispanic Leadership Fund is larger than you. I understand you have quite an amazing staff of public policy experts and others. Just tell us a little bit about the organization and the structure of it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have kind of a unique model that's been in place since we started. Our executive committee is, I'm the head of the group, but I always look at it as, a team of equals and people who just have amassed incredible experience and knowledge in their respective fields. And we have people who are, as subject matter experts in things from like national security to a lot of economic empowerment issues, as we've been talking about, and everything in between, right? And not everyone has been always focused strictly on Hispanic issues, but rather public policy, and in some cases, political experience as well. So there's people who have, a lot of private sector experience, a lot of experience in government and public policy, whether the executive branch, the White House, to congressional staff, which is something I know a little bit about. That's the kind of world that I came from. And so we're just very fortunate to have these folks who from the beginning have bought into the mission of the organization, who keep us growing and keep, our voice strong and vibrant, making sure that we have the right information. And something that's worked out really well for us because we very protective of our independent status. I mean, we, have a certain, philosophical point of view, and I'm outlining, some of that with you all today. But we're also adamant about being independent actors and not being, so heavily focused on one side or another that we're blinded to, certain realities in the public policy and political world. And so that structure has helped us out tremendously.
That's great. And we don't have a ton of time left, but do you have any upcoming activities or initiatives that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yes, thank you. Well, we'll be, continuing to watch all the hot button issues, of the day. And as I said before, if they're, talking about it on Capitol Hill, if it's something that's in the headlines, we're constantly looking for ways to weigh in and are trying to be active on those issues. Speaking of immigration, I mean, that's, again, we expect that to be a hot topic issue. We're always looking out to get the right information out. Unfortunately, there are a lot of, sort of extremist voices these days that have risen and have spread a lot of misinformation about the impact of immigrants. And so that's something that, we're always looking to highlight and counter. And so people can look for us from us in that realm as well.
That's great. That's great. Mario, how do people reach out to you at the Hispanic Leadership Fund? How do they learn more? How do they connect with you? And who are you hoping might reach out to you that watches this?
Well, yes, thank you. I mean, our website is at HispanicLeadershipFund.org. The organization has, Twitter, Facebook. If people are interested in me personally, I'm at Twitter, for example, at Mario H. Lopez. They can find us there. And, we'd love to connect with anyone whose, interest is aligned with ours and who are looking to, promote the same sorts of issues that we are. We're always looking for ways to work together. And, again, even with our philosophical positioning, we are always looking for ways to reach out to folks whose views on some issues might be different than ours, but where there is some overlap and we can work together, because that is something that's important for the country to move forward as well.
Well, you can't disagree with that. And Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And this is one more of a continuing series that we've been running all year, sponsored by the Bridge Alliance, entitled Fixing America's Broken Democracy. And Mario Lopez and the Hispanic Leadership Fund are certainly working toward that end as well. Mario, thanks for joining us, and thank you all for watching.